I'm 88 years old. I was married to my husband Donald for 54 years before he passed last spring. And I'm going to tell you something that people in my generation never talk about. We slept in separate beds for 17 years. And it was the best decision we ever made for our marriage. I know what you're thinking. If you're sleeping apart, music, the marriage is already over. That's what everybody thinks. That's what I thought. When Donald first suggested it, I cried. I thought it meant he didn't want to be near me anymore. I thought it was the beginning of the end. It was the beginning, but not of the end of the real marriage. The honest one. Music, the one that worked. Let me go back. Donald and I shared a bed for 37 years before we separated. 37 years. Snorts. And I need to tell you the truth about those 37 years, because nobody ever tells the truth about what sharing a bed actually looks like after the first decade. Music. Donald snored. Not the cute snoring they show in movies. The kind that shakes the headboard. The kind that wakes you at 2 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the morning and 4 in the morning until you were lying there with a pillow over your head, fantasizing about a hotel room by yourself. I hadn't slept through the night in 20 years. 20 years of broken sleep. Do you know what 20 years of broken sleep does to a person? It makes you mean. It made me mean. Sighs. I was angry all the time. Not about the snoring, about everything. Because when you don't sleep, music, you don't have the emotional capacity to handle anything. The smallest annoyance becomes an emergency. He leaves a glass on the counter and you react like he burned the house down. He asks a simple question and you snap at him and he's confused because all he did was ask where the butter is and you're acting like he insulted your mother. That wasn't a marriage problem. That was a sleep problem. But we didn't know that. We thought we were falling apart. Clears throat. And then there was the other thing, the thing nobody talks about. Physical intimacy changes as you age. It doesn't disappear, but it changes. And when you're sharing a bed every night, there's an unspoken pressure, an expectation that lives in the mattress. Every night you lie down next to each other and the question is there, even if nobody asks it. Are we going to tonight? And when the answer is no, which it often is when you're 57 and tired and your knee hurts, sighs and gasps, there's a silent disappointment that accumulates, not from him specifically, not from me specifically, from the bed itself. The bed becomes a place of obligation instead of rest. Donald brought it up on a Sunday morning. He said, "Pat, I think we should try sleeping in separate rooms." And my heart dropped into my stomach. I said, "You don't want to sleep next to me?" And he said something I've never forgotten. He, music, said, "I don't want to keep waking you up and watching you hate me for it by breakfast." Music. He was right. I was hating him by breakfast, not hating him, but the resentment of a woman who hasn't slept properly in 2 decades looks a lot like hate at 6 in the morning. We set up the guest room, his room. Clears throat. We didn't tell anyone at first because we were ashamed. And that shame is the reason I'm talking to you now. Because the shame was wrong. The shame came from a rule that someone made up that married people must share a bed. And we treated that rule as sacred, even though it was destroying us. Here's what happened when we separated. I slept through the night for the first time in 20 years. I woke up rested. I came downstairs and Donald was making coffee. And I looked at him and I didn't feel angry. I felt glad to see him. Do you understand how significant that is? After 20 years of waking up resentful, I woke up glad because I'd had 8 hours of sleep. Music. And the first face I saw was his, and I had the emotional capacity to appreciate it instead of resenting it. Donald noticed it immediately. He said, "You're smiling at me before coffee. That hasn't happened in years." Everything improved. Our conversations got better because I had the patience for them. Music. Our arguments got shorter because I had the emotional reserves to stay reasonable. Our time together became something we chose rather than something we endured. Clears throat. And here's the part that surprises everyone. Our physical intimacy got better, dramatically better, because it was no longer expected. Music was chosen. When you share a bed, intimacy lives in the mattress as a default expectation. When you sleep apart, intimacy becomes an event, a decision. Clears throat. You choose to go to the other person's room. You choose each other. And that choice, that deliberate walking down the hallway and knocking on someone's door, is more romantic than any obligatory Tuesday night in a shared bed. Donald would knock on my door and say, "You accepting visitors tonight?" And I'd laugh and say, "Depends who's visiting." We were flirting at 62 years years old. We were choosing each other at 62. After 37 years of taking each other for granted in a shared bed, we were suddenly dating again from different rooms in the same house. H clears throat. Now, here's the real lesson. The one I want you to walk away with. The one that applies to more than just beds. Music. The rules of marriage that you inherited are not sacred. They're habits. Music. Someone made them up. Your parents followed them. Music. The parents followed them. And nobody ever stopped to ask, does this actually work or does it just look right? Sharing a bed looks right. It photographs well. Music. It fits the story of what marriage is supposed to be. But if sharing a bed is making you exhausted and resentful and mean, then the beautiful picture is destroying the actual marriage. This applies to everything. Sunday dinners that nobody enjoys, but everybody insists on having. Holiday traditions that stress everyone out, but nobody dares to cancel. The rule that you have to spend every evening together. The rule that separate vacations means something is wrong. The rule that date night must look a certain way. If it's not working, change it. Not because the marriage is failing, because the rule is failing the marriage. Clears throat. Donald and I broke one rule and saved 54 years. One rule. We stopped sharing a bed and started sharing a life. Because here's the truth. Nobody will say out loud, you can share a bed and be completely disconnected. You can sleep in separate rooms and be the closest two people on earth. Connection is not about proximity. Connection is about intention. And intention is not about where you sleep. It's about whether you choose each other when you're awake. Donald knocked on my door every Saturday night for 17 years. You accept in visitors every Saturday, music without fail. Through cancer treatment and retirement and the death of friends and the slow aging of our bodies. He knocked, snorts. He died last spring. And the thing I miss most is not his body in the bed next to mine. I got used to sleeping alone years ago. The thing I miss is the knock, the choice, music. That gentle, ridiculous knock that said, I had a whole room of my own and I'd rather be in yours. Clears throat. If your marriage is struggling, before you call a lawyer, try something simpler. Change the rules that aren't working, even the ones that look right, especially the ones that look right. And if your partner knocks, open the door.